If your spouse were abducted, you'd expect to get help from the police. You'd hope they'd spring into action and do all they could to find your missing spouse. But when Susanna Co's husband went missing in Malaysia and she visited the police, it felt more like an interrogation, like they were accusing her of wrongdoing.
Yes, it was really very traumatizing for me, being in a room with bright lights and an officer was questioning me, and it was strange that he wasn't asking the normal questions you would ask. Family of the victim.
Jesus never promised his followers an easy path. In fact, he told his disciples that the world would hate them. He sent them out as sheep among wolves. Jesus' words came true in the life of the apostles, and they're still coming true today in the lives of his followers around the world. Join host Todd Nettleton as we hear their inspiring stories and learn how we can help, right now on the Voice of the Martyrs radio network.
Welcome back to the Voice of the Martyrs Radio. My name is Todd Nettleton. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. You know, around the holidays, we naturally gather with family or friends, and of course, that's an incredible source of joy for us. But sometimes these gatherings can remind us of loss, of people who maybe aren't around the table anymore. Our guest today has suffered a lot. She has lost a lot, but her perspective will help in times we experience loss or uncertainty. We'll hear an interview I conducted with Susanna Co on the road in Southeast Asia. She is the wife of Pastor Raymond Koh. He was abducted in Malaysia in 2017 and hasn't been heard from since. His car has never been found. I recorded this with her just a couple years after the abduction, but the story is ongoing. In fact, Susanna is right now suing the Malaysian government and leaders in the police force there, those believed to be responsible for Raymond's disappearance. That trial is ongoing even right now. We weren't in the studio for this conversation, so the audio isn't perfect, but I know that you'll be blessed by Susanna's grace and faithfulness, and I hope that you'll pray for her as the trial moves forward. Susanna, welcome to the Voice of the Martyrs Radio.
Yes, it's nice to be with y'all today.
You even said y'all like an Oklahoman. That's pretty good. Let's talk about the abduction happened a little over 2 years ago. Your husband was driving in his car. 3 SUVs forced him to the side of the road. He was put into one of the SUVs. His car was taken. His car has never been seen since, and he's never been seen since. Are there any updates? Is there anything you know today that you didn't know when it happened and can tell us kind of what has gone on over the last 2 years?
Yes, there have been a number of revelations. I can say that God was there, even though this tragedy, in a way. Firstly, there was a eyewitness right smack in the middle of that scene. He thought it was a movie production. Unfortunately, he couldn't identify anyone or even the car numbers. And secondly, my children went door to door and found CCTV footages of the entire incident, and that video has gone viral, and it just showed that it was a very military style operation and well organized, and it was done in about 40 seconds. And so we suspected this could be a case of enforced disappearance. And suddenly, end of last year, one of the officers, he confessed that this operation, the abduction, was done by the police, and he actually named some people, and he also talked about the top cop having knowledge of this abduction. And also, we have escalated this incident to the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, and they have had a public inquiry into the disappearances, not only of Pastor Raymond, but another 3 persons. And so that there have been some answers to our questions, and we are very grateful for it.
We're talking today on Voice of the Martyrs Radio with Susanna Co. Her husband, Pastor Raymond Koh, was abducted a little more than 2 years ago in Malaysia. Susanna mentioned the CCTV security camera footage of the abduction. We'll link you to that if you come visit us at vomradio.net. It was quite an amazing professional operation. As you mentioned, it took 40 seconds for this whole thing to happen. So before your husband was abducted, had he been threatened? Did he know there was a risk of this, or did this happen just completely out of the blue?
Okay, in 2011, Raymond had held Thanksgiving dinner for our partners and sponsors, as well as our stakeholders, those whom we reach out to who are needy. And we had set up a social organization called Harapan Community. So we just wanted to thank the sponsors, and we were holding it in a church. However, that night, for the first time in Malaysia, a church was raided by the police. And after that incident, my husband and I received a death threat in the form of, I had a white powder that say anthrax with a letter written in red. My husband had 2 bullets, live bullets, in a box with a threatening letter saying that they will kill us. And they alleged that, we had proselytized Muslims.
So let me just kind of catch up our listeners. If you're not an ethnic Malay in Malaysia, it's perfectly legal to be a Christian and be part of a church and go. But if you're an ethnic Malay, you have to be a Muslim. And so the government was saying, hey, you're having this celebration and you've invited Muslims to come here. You're not supposed to do that.
Correct.
So when those threats, and obviously when you talk about somebody sending a box with bullets in it, how did Pastor Raymond respond to that? How did he think about that or keep on working in spite of those kind of threats?
Yes, he continued, even though there some fear and anxiety, but he felt that the Lord called him to fulfill the Great Commission, and that means to every tribe, nation, and tongue. And he does not discriminate. So we just carried on our work, with the poor, the needy, the marginalized, and with God's grace, we carried through. So it's like almost 5 or 6 years, we did not have any more threat. So we thought everything was okay until 13th February 2017. It was a big shock to myself and my family and the Christian community, as well as to the whole country.
And I understand on the day of the abduction, you go to the police station to report, my husband didn't come home, he's missing. Instead of saying, okay, let's go look for him, the police interrogated you. What was that like? And also, what were they questioning you about?
Yes, it was really very traumatizing for me, being in a room with bright lights, and an officer was questioning me, and it was strange that he wasn't asking the normal questions you would ask family of the victim of adoption, but he was asking about what are the activities that Pastor Raymond did. Specifically, towards the end, 2 major questions. One, whether he did proselytize Muslims, did he teach Christianity to Muslims?
Which has nothing whatsoever to do with where is he and who took him. It has to do with, is he a bad person? Is he not following the law?
True. He's not a criminal, and he doesn't have a bad record. And so towards the end, about 3 a.m., I just stood up and said, I'm not answering any more questions. I have my rights, and I'm going out there to look for my husband. I say the important thing for you to do is to go out there and look for my husband.
And it's interesting to me that the CCTV footage that is now very public and has been watched by a lot of people was not found by the police. It was found by your family.
True. I think they were very shocked. The police were shocked. And we had tried to get CC footage from the petrol kiosks or gas stations. And we were told that the police had already come and they wouldn't give it to us.
But you found a private home that had a camera, and they did give it to you. And that's the only footage that's public now. That gas station footage that supposedly the police have, no one's ever seen it. So it's a kind of an interesting... One of the things that we talked about before we started recording was you noticed some changes in Raymond in the months before he was abducted.
That's right.
What did you see that changed in him?
Yeah, he was a little bit quiet, but more than that, I saw that he took his daily walk with God very seriously. He was going for prayer walks early in the morning for like 3 hours. And also he was memorizing chunks of the Bible passages, and he would tell me, oh, I've just finished memorizing 1 Corinthians 15, And I was thinking, wow, he's really a great example to follow, and he was very disciplined about that.
He had kind of stepped that up, right? So
True.
A year before that or 2 years before that, he obviously still read his Bible and he still prayed, but he seemed to be doing it more in the months right before. Did he say why, or did he explain that at all?
He didn't explicitly say or give any reason, but I observed that it could be for his ministry. He had a 5-year plan to see people pray for every district of Malaysia. So he came up with a prayer guide that divides the whole country to 52 districts so that you can pray for one whole year, 52 weeks a year. And he felt that this was serious and it was a task that the Lord has given him. So he wanted to go into intensive prayer and reading of the Word.
As we think about the last 2+ years since the day of that abduction, and again, he hasn't been seen since. His car disappeared. It hasn't been seen since. Nobody really knows what happened other than obviously the people who did the abduction. There's a lot of uncertainty. What's been the hardest part for you and for your family as you've gone through the last 2 years?
We miss him a lot. And the hardest part is not knowing where he is, what happened to him, and how he's doing right now. And I've gone for some counseling, and that really helped. And right now, my children are going for counseling because this has taken a toll on them, physically as well as, I think, emotionally and psychologically. But we thank God for the Christian community and also the worldwide church that has been an encouragement to us, and they have expressed their support through prayers and sending postcards to us, and I think that really lifts up our spirits and encourage us in many ways. Yes.
How has God helped you to keep going through all of that uncertainty and all of that difficulty? How has God been present with you over the last 2 years?
God has been very real and personal to us. I remember the first 3 weeks I was very lost, even had panic attacks. but we decided to go for a silent retreat, and that really helped me to focus on God, fix my eyes on Jesus. And one verse that I like is Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God, and that I don't need to struggle and strive, but I can just rest in the assurance that He's with me and He will never leave me or forsake me, and that all things for good to those who love Him and who are called according to His purpose. And even though the circumstances are difficult, I can see that His grace is sufficient.
Are there, and you mentioned Psalms, are there other passages that you read differently since February of 2017 than maybe you did 5 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, one of the passages was the story of Ruth, the book of Ruth. So Naomi and Ruth, they had no future, but God provided Boaz as the kinsman redeemer. And when I was reading the book, I sensed as if God was saying to me, I am your kinsman redeemer. And He says that He holds tomorrow. He holds my tomorrow. Yeah, even though I do not know my tomorrow, He holds the future. And that was very reassuring. And there are other passages like Romans 8:28. For we know, God will all things, even the bad things, for good to those who love Him and who are called according to His purpose. And there is the passage from Revelation 5:9 and Revelation 7:9. This is Raymond's favorite verses. In those passages, it talk about thousands and thousands of people before the throne. They were dressed in white and they were worshiping God. But smack in the middle of Revelation 5:9 and Revelation 7:9 is Revelation 6:9. And in Revelation 6:9, there is all these people dressed in white, and they were the ones who have suffered and were martyred. And if not for Revelation 6:9, there wouldn't be Revelation 5:9 and 7:9. And they were asking God, like, how long before you will judge the nations? And God had to tell them, be patient, that it's like there's a quota. And once that is met, then He will come. In the coming days, we will see more people being persecuted, and there will be suffering, there will be martyrs. But in the end, we will see people from all tribes, nation and tongue, worshiping God in heaven. And that is the hope that we have, that all this sacrifice, it is for a reason. And I believe Raymond would count it worthy to suffer for Christ.
In a way, he already had counted it, because you mentioned he had the threats. He had the bullets that people had mailed to him. And yet he said, no, God has called us here. We're going to keep doing it.
Right.
One of the things we like to do, Susanna, on Voice of the Martyrs Radio, is equip people to pray. How do we pray knowledgeably for the country of Malaysia?
We can pray for the Christian church that they will be strong in the midst of very subtle kind of persecution, and that they will speak out for truth and justice, and also that they would love people into the kingdom. And that's what Raymond would say. Go bless your enemies, bless those who hate you or persecute you. Pray for them and bless them. So love them into the kingdom. And for the new government, that they will have the political will to do what is right. Politics is very complicating, but that the politicians will not use race and religion as the playing card to move the emotions of people so that they can win in the elections, but that they will be people who are God-fearing and people of integrity, that they will not be greedy, but they will serve the community.
When you think about the men who are involved in this abduction, what are your thoughts towards them? Do you feel angry? Do you feel mad at them? When you think about them, what thoughts come to your mind?
I think from the beginning, I have decided to forgive them because they know not what they do, and I follow the example of our Lord Jesus, so that there is nothing dark in my heart, because I want God to work through me. But it wasn't easy, and in these 2 years, when I came face to face with some of these police who were being questioned at the Human Rights Commission public inquiry, there were times when I feel like strangling them, because they were just lying. They were just not cooperating. And I remember one time in my car, I was just convicted of my bad attitude towards the police, and I had to repent with tears before the Lord that, I have to pray for the police. The whole system is riddled with corruption, scandals, and evil, and I think I need to see the bigger picture. This is the bigger picture that I need to see, that God is doing a cleansing in Malaysia, and He has to bring up all that is dark and evil so that the light can shine upon it. And we Christians, we are the salt and the light of the world, and we need to pray and need to see God's will be done in Malaysia. And so God, really had to deal with me first, to forgive them, pray for them, because they need to know the Lord. If there's going to be transformation in Malaysia, there needs to be transformation in the lives of individuals.
That's Susanna Co here on the Voice of the Martyrs Radio. Her husband, Pastor Raymond Koh, was abducted in Malaysia in February of 2017. We recorded that interview a couple years after that, and let me give you an update. There is a trial ongoing right now in Malaysia related to Pastor Raymond's forced disappearance. Susanna is suing the Malaysian government and leaders and former leaders in the police force there, those who are believed to be responsible for Raymond's abduction. Just 2 weeks ago, they had 2 more days of hearings in the High Court, including a visit to the site of the abduction and including Susanna's own witness testimony. I hope that you will pray for Susanna during this ongoing court process. Pray for justice, pray for her protection, and pray that the truth will finally be revealed. Susanna's story reminds us we certainly grieve and feel sad when unspeakably hard things happen. But we can also trust God in the middle of the difficulty, just as she talked about trusting God in her grief and in her loss. We can keep our eyes on God's will, even in the middle of the trial, and pray that His kingdom will be built, even through our suffering, even through the difficulties. You can listen to other stories like this that will strengthen your faith, stories that give you perspective on the challenges that you might be going through even right now. You can hear from other heroes of the faith like Susanna Co when you visit the archives at our website, vomradio.net. Again, that website, vomradio.net. If you haven't already done so, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the free Voice of the Martyrs magazine. Just come to vomradio.net. Click on the link at the top of the page that says Free Magazine. Next week, we're going to hear another powerful story, and once again, we'll be on the road. I want you to join me to sit down with a brother in North Africa, a pastor leading Muslims to follow Christ and experiencing pressure and pushback for his gospel work. I know you'll be encouraged. I know you'll be challenged. So please be back with us next week right here on the Voice of the Martyrs Radio Network.